Good evening, viewers, and welcome to our regular international evening news edition from Maidan in Kiev. These are the latest headlines. We are seeing similar worrying trends today in Crimea, with Russia making their military presence more prominent. Russia continues to move the movement of troops towards the Ukrainian border, and we are seeing more military equipment and personnel being moved into the Crimea. Russian paratroopers have also occupied another part of Ukrainian mainland in Kherson region. This is not part of the Crimea, this is part of the mainland Ukraine, and we have seen more than 100 paratroopers being stationed there today, with military helicopters bringing their reinforcements in. Local Ukrainian military units conducted negotiations with Russians, and according to Russian speaker, they are there to protect the assets of the Chernomornaftogaz oil company, which has its oil rigs located several kilometers from the scene of the accident. We have seen in the previous developments, we have seen pro-Russian Crimean government declaring that Chernomornaftogaz, which is Crimean biggest oil company, should be made part of Russian company Gazprom. And obviously we can see that Russia clearly has financial interests in Crimea, especially in their oil and gas reserves that has been recently located in the regions of Crimea that are under Ukrainian jurisdiction. And obviously at the moment Russia is hoping to start exploiting those regions, and it's our task to stop the exploitation and make sure that that illegal activity cannot take place on the Ukrainian territory. More propaganda from the Russian media. We have seen another declaration by the Russian state media that Ukrainian far-right nationalists are moving in onto the east. There was a declaration that armed paramilitary units are heading in the direction of Donetsk and Kharkov, and obviously this is done in order to cause hysteria in the eastern regions, and well, obviously that can only lead to one outcome: Putin moving in with the troops to help protect the Russian population that, according to him, is suffering in the east at the moment. Violence erupted in Kharkiv last night, with the death toll currently standing at 2 people killed and 5 injured. According to the local police press office, people who were killed were civilians. And this was another provocation that was done by their pro-Russian protesters, who were trying to attack the building in which reportedly the members of the right sector organization were residing. There is no proof who was in the building, but obviously we have a proof of a death toll with the video documenting the violence. And Russia foreign minister has called for full-scale all-out action. This has to start with arrests of the neo-Nazis that they are claiming are currently involved in violence in Donetsk. According to the local government, we are currently seeing police inaction and police incompetence in Donetsk. This has been declared by the newly appointed Donetsk regional government, Sergei Taruta. He has claimed that local police is not involved in protecting peaceful protesters, and they are currently sabotaging all the efforts to bring stability in the region. It's also quite interesting to note that Ukrainian oligarch Rinat Akhmetov is reportedly behind the appointment of the chief policeman in the Donetsk region. According to Zerkalo Nedeli, the last governor of police in the Donetsk region was also connected to Akhmetov, who was previously a member of his security team. The newly appointed police governor is also has been a member of Rinat Akhmetov's security team, and reportedly these policemen are not taking side of the Ukrainian people. They're currently staying still and not getting involved in the violence that is being caused by the pro-Russian protesters. And obviously the question we have to ask here, whose side is Mr. Akhmetov on? Because we can clearly see some Ukrainian oligarchs are now taking sides with Kolomoisky, who's been appointed the governor of the Dnipropetrovsk region, clearly taking Ukrainian side, helping stabilize the situation in the city, and even spending his own money to fuel Ukrainian military helicopters. While we are seeing Sergei Taruta, who was appointed the governor in Donetsk, another Ukrainian oligarch, is reportedly doing his best in order to stabilize the situation in the region. He has appointed the new governor of the Ukrainian security service in Donetsk, who were responsible for arresting of the pro-Russian provocators, including one of the representatives of the Russian secret service. So we can see that the security service in Donetsk started working. However, the police, who are allegedly being controlled by Rinat Akhmetov, they are currently passive and not helping stabilize the situation in the region. And another pro-Russian rally took place in Donetsk today. About 1,000 people gathered in a central square, and also in front of the Ukrainian security services. They have managed to forcefully enter the building, and they demanding the resignation of the Ukrainian security services head that was recently appointed. That they are also demanding the freedom for Gubarev, who was a self-proclaimed Donetsk governor and who was arrested for 2 months for inciting hatred and calling for the separation of Ukraine. Ukrainian TV channel Inter is currently being blocked by 300 men from self-defense units from Maidan. They are demanding the change of management of this pro-Russian mainstream Ukrainian channel, mainly due to the fact that they are broadcasting Russian propaganda on their channel. That includes the recent incident last night when they broadcast the Russian-made series in which Russian army was glorified, and obviously this is not something that we need here in Ukraine at the moment, as we have our own informational campaign that we need to put in place in order to make people hear the truth, as currently their views of the people, mainly people in the east of Ukraine, are really twisted under the influence of the Russian TV channels that they're constantly watching. And this TV channel, which reportedly belongs to Dmitro Firtash, who was recently arrested in Vienna under the sanctions of the FBI. This channel supported the pro-Yanukovych position during the during Maidan protests, and they were clearly following the Russian propaganda lines in their coverage. So we'll keep an eye on the development and see how that will the situation will resolve itself. Currently, journalists working in Inter refusing to give any comments. Now a little bit about internal situation in Russia. We have seen anti-war rallies taking place all over Russia today, with Moscow having the most numerous rally, consisting of 50,000 people. They were holding Ukrainian and Russian flags, demanding the end to violence and demanding the full cessation of any aggression towards Ukraine. We have seen several arrests took place in St. Petersburg, so peaceful protesters were arrested by the police. Other Russian cities has conducted the rallies. Among the most numerous was the one in Magadan, which is in northern Russia. Despite strong frosts, today about 5,000 people came out on the street in support of anti-war campaign and Russian withdrawal from the Crimea. According to Russian experts, credit lines for large Ukrainian companies were temporarily frozen in the anticipation of further developments in terms of sanctions and further developments of Russian aggression in Crimea. This is not an official position, however, Russian experts have claimed that one credit agreement has already fallen through, and several others are being put on hold with no official position declared by the crediting institutions, which obviously is quite clear that if Russia is to experience international sanctions, there are not many people who are willing to put their money into the country, which is actually already reviewing the bill in order to confiscate Western property that is located on the Russian territory in case the European Union and the United States introduce sanctions to Russia. In terms of international reactions, we have seen a rather important development as Venice Commission within the European Union believes the referendum in Crimea is illegal. They have now joined ranks with the United States and the European Union Council and a number of other countries who have declared the Crimean referendum to be illegal and not corresponding to Ukrainian constitution, claiming that such referendum cannot be held under threat of violence and is only possible if there are proper procedures in place and there is no pressure, especially not armed pressure on the people who are taking part in the referendum and those who are organizing it. Now a little bit about internal situation in Ukraine. Tatar self-government authority Medjilis declared that the pressure is being applied to residents in Crimea with regards to the referendum. According to them, they are being contacted by numerous citizens who are voicing their concerns that they are being threatened with being fired in order to participate in the referendum and vote yes for joining Russia. So currently we're seeing a lot of pressure applied on different fronts, including incentives. So basically we're seeing a carrot and stick approach where Russian pensions are promised to the pensioners, which are currently higher than the pensions in Ukraine, and other people who are not willing to participate, they are being threatened with being fired or other actions by the local authorities. All cash withdrawals have been suspended in Crimea. One of the first tasks that the self-appointed Crimean government did was limiting the banking services in the peninsula. First, they limited the withdrawal of the deposits, and the second move was to limit the cash withdrawals from the ATMs. We have seen a large queuing outside of the ATMs in Crimea, and reportedly people are not able to withdraw money. If you hear to what the crowd is talking, they're blaming Kiev in all the troubles, and clearly this is what the plan was when the self-appointed Crimean authorities decided to block all the financial transactions. Which probably is to further alienate Crimean residents towards Ukraine. In another development, Ukrainian Supreme Council has voted on dissolving the Crimean self-proclaimed parliament and declaring Crimean referendum illegal. The bill has been adopted by Ukrainian Supreme Council, and well, I think this bill can clearly show who are those people who are supporting the independent Ukraine and who are the people in parliament who are in favor of Ukraine becoming a part of Russia. This is rather different to, let's say, the language question, where we can clearly see some deputies supporting the eastern region position where they want Russian language to be more dominant. This is a different question. This is a question of independence of the country for which those deputies were elected in the parliament, and clearly they are committing treason by voting like that. And I think it's high time a list of the people who voted in favor of Crimean separation, in favor of and who didn't vote on declaring the Crimean referendum illegal, those lists should be made public, and we should know our heroes, those who are voting for the questions that are damaging to the Ukrainian statehood. One organization has received permission to conduct exit polls in Crimea. This is the only one who received the permission, so we have seen that there is a monopoly now for the exit polls, clearly being done in order to manipulate the opinion, as we have no independent observers who are currently conducting exit polls and being able to provide parallel results to the official voting results. And in another worrying development, we have seen a Greek Orthodox priest Nikolai Quich, who was kidnapped in Crimea today. Previously, we have heard the statements by the Greek Orthodox Church that their priests are being threatened with violence and are ordered to leave the Crimea. This is probably being done in order to make this the position of the Russian Orthodox Church stronger. There is a tradition of Russian Orthodox Church always, often being involved in the election procedures and in the referendum procedures, where priests using their influence to sway public in order to vote one way or another. And in addition, this Greek Orthodox priest who was kidnapped, he was one of the military priests who is stationed with the Ukrainian army and is responsible for the church services supporting the Ukrainian army currently stationed in Crimea. And next week we have seen Ukrainian Election Committee starting the presidential election candidate registration. Currently no candidates were registered so far, however several has declared their willingness to participate, among them being Klitschko and Yulia Tymoshenko. This is all from us for tonight. Thank you for watching us and good night.